afternoon, everybody. We're going to call today's Public Works Committee meeting together, April 22nd, 2024. And the roll call will be, I'm Councilwoman West, the chair of the Public Works Committee. Councilman Fred Green is a committee member, as well as Councilwoman Tamika Gibson. And what we're doing is an overview on 3 different subjects from the Public Works area. And at this time, I'm going to call on someone from Public Works to do the handicap parking fees. And what we're looking at is to establish fee schedule rates, setting normal fees based upon program costs, using a market-based approach so that payments are consistent with efficiency, economy, and quality of care, and sufficient enough that services are available to the general population in the geographic area. So, Mr. Mark Alexander, are you speaking?
Yes. Good afternoon, Mark Alexander, Interim Public Works Director for the Public Works Department. Good afternoon, Council, Ms. Jones. Brought some folk along with me from my department. To my left is Caprice Clark, City Clerk, and she works along with the engineer as well. Also have Mr. Truett Red, who's our field inspector. Mrs. Melba Moore, who's our recycling coordinator.
Mr. Alexander,
Melba Rockwell.
you have another one of these? I don't have one of these. No?
Should be 3 up there.
That's all right. You can take that.
Melba Rockwell, who's our recycling coordinator. We also have Jaquan Wesley, who's acting in as our public works supervisor. And last but least, I have my also have my office manager, Antrine Wilson. And we also have Mr. Ty Lewis, who's our project manager. He'll be speaking with you later on in this meeting. We want to begin with handicap parking fees. So after several meetings with my department, my team, we came up with some fees that we feel as though the department should raise due to the services that we provide. First thing I want to say is this is installation fees only, not the yearly fee, just the installation fee. The yearly fee is a certain fee that we charge for people that already has handicap. The initial fee is for people who's applying for handicap for the first time, for the very first time. And the initial fees, as we speak, are only $25. So we, after some investigation and looking into what we do and what we provide, we came up with the fact that it should be raised to $100 due to the fact that we use 2 laborers, which costs us $81.58 for 2 hours to install. The sign itself is $11.04. The pole, which is a 2-part pole, it's a long pole and a 4-footer, that costs us $46.67, which totals out to $139. So as you can see, that doesn't even total the cost of what it costs us, along with a lot of other miscellaneous things as far as gas, paint. Sometimes we have to clean the surface before we install. We have to make minor repairs sometimes. The sidewalk can be damaged, the street can be damaged. So that doesn't even include that. And that totals, without all the miscellaneous, it totals $139. But we thought it would be fair to at least raise it to $100. Any questions about the
Yeah.
fees?
Why not the full fee, the full amount?
Well, as you know, folk in Chester, you know, they're not used to change, so we wanted to kind of go in light, not lightly, try to be fair from the beginning, not to just come all at once, give people a chance to adjust. And as the years go on, we just raise it as we go on.
A chance to adjust. This fee is only for new people who are
Yes,
just now
the
proposing
initial installation,
the
yes,
initial installation.
yes.
So they wouldn't be adjusting because they've never had to pay this fee before.
That's true.
It would be.
That's a
the-
good point.
You know,
That's a good point.
First,
But word of mouth, you know how that goes. You and I know that people might say, well, I only paid $25 last year or 2 months ago, things like that. So that's what we took in consideration. But with that being said, you make a good point.
I mean, I'm just, you know, at some point we got to realize we in bankruptcy and we ain't got the
Absolutely.
money. We
I
can't
agree.
continue to carry the burden,
I agree.
you know. And so if it's going to cost us $140, then we only charging you, you know, we're still losing out.
Okay.
So at what point are we going to start breaking even,
Understand?
if that makes sense?
That's what we're here for. Yep.
My question is for those persons who already have a handicap parking sign, but then they're moving, not out of Chester, but moving to a different location. But there would have to be maybe a new installation. So would they be charged, the new amount?
person?
They would be
Absolutely, yes.
treated as a new customer?
Yes. Yes.
And there's something in writing to that effect so that they know the changes that are coming.
I'm
So
sorry,
if
say that
they-
again.
If they are, they have one now and you said they move, they relocate.
Mm-hmm.
When they relocate, you said they get a new fee. So
Or the new person coming in.
so that same person will be as a new person coming in? If they've already had a placard?
Because they're going to a different location,
Right.
and a new installation, so the fees would,
It'll just be like a brand new person all over again, okay.
It's $50 for a change of address? So you guys just pull it out the ground?
Excuse me. If you're going to speak, you have to speak in the mic.
It's a fee of $50 for change of address.
Is that current, or is that would be the new proposed fee?
New proposed fee.
Okay.
okay, so change of address, $50. Have we looked at any other municipalities and checked?
We did.
Fees again.
Their current fees were low, but also they don't have the number of handicaps that they deal with in the municipalities. There are other places that we looked at.
Do they restrict the number of,
Yes. Yeah, most of them have restrictions on how many handicaps per block.
per block?
Yes. We currently don't have that restriction.
Because we have handicap signs.
Everywhere.
Every week we getting,
Everywhere.
when we vote,
Yes,
it's
Right.
handy being proposed.
correct.
Is there anyone else from the committee who has a question? Anyone from the community? Come forward. Miss Evans.
Good morning, well, good afternoon.
Good morning.
Adelaide Evans, 465 Bradley Street, Chester, Pennsylvania. My question is, I understand the proposed fees and those different things, but when it comes to a handicap, there's an issue with also dealing with the state. So if you have a handicap that you pay for every year to be maintained, and sometimes they aren't maintained because most people don't know, people can park in your spot for up to maybe, I think it's 2 hours, and it's nothing you can do about it. So what are we gonna do about that? I know certain people have residential only, but they also have a problem with that as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
I believe, to my understanding, that is a state ordinance. and the state ordinance will supersede the city ordinance. And in state, anyone can park in a handicap parking space, but you can't stay there. You know, it's a certain amount of hours you can park there, but when you install a handicap parking space, anybody with a handicap sticker or placard can park there. You just can't stay there.
No, I understand all of that. I'm just speaking of the fact that the person that actually owns that sign, basically what you're saying, once you install it, they own that sign. You're then actually pay $25 per year to maintain the sign. And I understand the whole ramification of the state and everything, but I think it should be something else put in place. Because if for example, I have one. I came home 1 o'clock in the morning one night, young lady pulled in my spot, she was gonna stay there all night.
Please speak into the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. She was going to stay there all night had I not called the police, because I have cameras, so I was able to see where she went at. And I just don't think it's fair that if you have to pay $25 to maintain a spot, even though it is a state mandate, that you should have to pay for that, because you're basically paying for anybody to park in your spot for up to 2 hours. And I think we also have to take in consideration, I understand that the city is taking a lot of loss when it comes to installing the handicap spots, but for the most part, a lot of people that get handicap spots here lately are senior citizens. A lot of them may not be able to afford the additional $75. So I'm thinking maybe if you want to raise the fee, raise it gradually, like Mr. Alexander said, but not jump all the way to $100. Maybe raise it to $50, then gradually go up. You have to take in consideration the person that you're asking to pay for it, even if you are going to notify them.
Good afternoon. Regarding the fees, I think it's amazing. My comments are going to be very similar to hers. That first installation fee, I would like to see it spread out over 3 years. And it kind of gets to your point. If you're paying $50 for the first 3 years, you have covered the cost of the installation. You haven't hit them upside the head with the punitive fee, maybe, you know, a little higher. What did we say, 100?
100.
Recommendation? Yeah. So I like the fact of covering our cost, cover it over the first 3 years. I am not in total agreement of a move fee, because most people don't move, and if they move, they might move once from one part of town to the other. If they're paying their fees on time, I think they should be, their annual fees, they should be excused for one move. If they have not paid their fees on time, then there should be a fee for moving them, whatever you guys decide that would be. So those are my only comments.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a concern. I've always had a concern about people paying the fee for handicap parking, and then anyone with a handicap placard who has not paid to park in that particular spot, you know, can park there. I've always disagreed with that. And maybe there's there are some things that we can look into, explore further, you know, maybe with the state, and also, you know, we can create our own situation here. You know, we could create our own resolution to accommodate what we want to do. But what we'll do is look at this as a committee, you know, and research it further with our chief of staff, you know, to see what we can do. Are there any other comments? You have any comments? Any of the other department heads who have a comment on this particular situation, handicap parking? Is there anything we missed, Antrine?
Gonna move on?
Not so much anything missed, but I just wanted to mention, as
Please speak into the mic.
or as Councilman Green stated,
that you're approving new handicap spaces almost every council meeting. Because people are applying that frequently. I'm sorry, people are applying that frequently. Currently, we have over 500 handicap spaces that we are aware of, because almost monthly we're discovering handicap signs, places that we were not aware of. We found people installing them themselves, even on weekends. Once we're made aware of it, then we will go and remove it. But that's happening throughout the city. So we do have quite a few, as Mr. Alexander said. The renewal fee is only $25. I'm sort of on the same page with Councilman Green with regards to covering the cost of the initial installation, and that's a one-time cost. It's not something that they continue to pay going forward. So the renewal fee remaining the same, it's not going to continue to cost that individual any additional amount year after year. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
And,
Count- Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I completely agree with you, especially if the residents who already have a parking sign, it won't cost them any more than what they're already paying. You know, we keep that at the same $25, but for new people who are requesting a parking sign, I would make a recommendation that we at least cover the cost. We can't continue, that's why we're make bankruptcy now, is because we keep eating a lot of costs that we shouldn't be eating. And so I would make a recommendation that we at least cover the $139.29 cost, so that way we don't have to continue to go in the hole every time we put out a new handicap parking space.
Thank you. Councilman Davis?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Councilman Davis. So 2 things that I wanted to make a comment on in regards to what I've heard in regards to the fees. Being the chair of the Budget and Finance Committee, fees cover all departments, so I wanted to make this known. As a city, we have to make sure that we're responsible for all our citizens. We all understand that. But as a business, we have to make it attractive for people in our community to want to stay in business with us. So I think that it's important that we try to incentivize the disability placards or parking spaces that people in our community are trying to receive. For example, the individuals who may not be handling things by code, you know, they might be responsible for paying a fee to the city because we're trying to promote doing things the right way. However, for, you know, the wiser citizens in our community, those who might be a first-time person partaking in this program to receive a disability space, it might be helpful for a city for us to make it attractive for them to want to obtain that space and keep that space. For example, if we do decide to have residents pay over a 3-year span, after that 3-year span, we might make it attractive to say, hey, after you pay for the 3 years, you don't have to pay again for another 3 years, and then pay, I guess, the $50 again for 3 years following, and then after you reach a span of maybe 10 years, you never have to pay again. That's going to encourage people to, you know, remain and keep and remain homeowners in our community, as well as word of mouth saying, hey, the city of Chester is working with their homeowners to say, if you obtain a parking spot or whatever the case may be, you want to stay in that property, you want to continue to own that property, because they're going to make it attractive for us to stay. So I think as a city government, we're responsible for trying to make it so that all of our residents are partaking in any program that we have, whether it's paying for a space or not. No one wants to pay a fee, and even especially if a fee increases. But it does help when people say, you know, I have this fee, I know I have to pay this fee, but if I can make it so that it's attractive for me to pay this fee, and when I'm done paying this fee, I never have to pay again, I know that, one, my city government cares about me, and they care about how much money or income I do or don't have, as well as any newcomers in our community. So if we are going to say pay it off in 3 years, 2 years from that, you don't have to pay anything. And if you bring other people to the city and say, hey, I'm a homeowner or potential homeowner in the community who does need a disability placard or sign or space, I know the city is willing to work with me, that I only have to pay the space for 3 years, and in 10 years, because I do plan to stay here for at least 10 years, my space is now free.
So I think that we should find a way to just incentivize, these different fees, especially as they increase, because as a city in bankruptcy, we might have to increase some fees. So that way the community is willing to work with us and they feel as though, we're protecting them at all costs. So that's just my quick point. Thank you very much.
And that would be nice, but then I keep thinking about the costs, what it costs the city to maintain the roads, you know?
That's a great question. I think that that will go in part with if a new person comes, the taxes that we'll lose from them paying for a space, we'll receive back in them being property owners and them paying their property taxes, depending on what that might look like, because we might have to raise property taxes fees later down the line. It depends on what type of structure or what type of plan we have when going into, I guess, raising or not raising the fees. The money has to come from somewhere. So it's all about how we're going to structure it to make it attractive, that's all, which is why I'm here to help, but that's just my one comment that I wanted to make.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Councilman.
I have a question. What is the collection rate on the annual $25 fee?
So currently, we're in the process, well, the renewal date is by March 1st of every year. Out of the almost or over 500 that we have, 345 have renewed thus far.
Ms. Intrigue.
Out of the 500 that we currently have, 345 have renewed thus far, and the deadline was March 1st. So what we do from that point is send a removal notice. I have the list already prepared. Those notices will probably go out on Friday. 90% of them are going, out of those that haven't renewed thus far, they are going to renew. Maybe May 30th, sometimes June, even had them renew as late as July. But 95% of the people do renew. And if not, then we'll remove their sign, and that happens occasionally.
Okay.
But for the most part, they renew.
Can I ask a question? When they when the placards have to be removed, the city has to pay for that too, don't
Yes.
they? So now is that fee given to that individual?
It isn't currently, no.
And so what would you suggest about that? Because that's still a cost that the city has to incur.
Exactly. That's something to be reviewed as well.
Something we have to look into and review. This is like an overview, and comments from all of us, including the community. And we're going to have to put all of our comments, ideas, suggestions together and come up with a solution.
And that's why I would say we need to at least get the first initial
Up front.
up front of everything, the entire cost. So that way, if that do happen, at least, we have the first initial fee and we're not, losing out that way. But
Also, we have the maintenance of the signs that we didn't include. They get knocked down. The repaints, they have to be repainted because of the weather. So that's not even included. We got to take that into consideration.
So there are other things that we need to look at as
Yes.
well.
Yes. I don't know if I'm going out of the rim here. We also need to encourage our constituents or residents, if you're not handicapped, not to apply for handicap.
Yes.
Because it takes away from the people that are actually handicapped. So that's a message that we strongly have to get out to the community.
But how would you do that when they can go and get a doctor's note? that
That's
say-
why all we can do is encourage
Okay.
people to be honest, not to apply if you're not handicapped.
And I know oftentimes when the city clerk is reading the resolution, you guys say after a thorough investigation. What does that thorough investigation look like?
Our thorough investigation.
Yes.
It's collaboration of our team here that we have as far as our department. I can't speak for everyone's department, but we do a thorough investigation on our part. We do all we can.
Well, I know you go out to the, once you get the application and what have you, you go out to the dwelling, after all of the documents and everything have been checked in-house. And then there's a field inspection, You know, say, for example, if they have a driveway or something like that, they're not eligible, you know?
Right.
If there's any type of off-street parking, you know, they're not eligible.
Right.
And so we try to make sure that I'm sorry. The Public Works tries to make sure that they're looking at all angles.
Yeah.
You know.
So to answer your question, Councilman, we do a thorough investigation in our department. Okay. Any more questions, Council?
Are we ready to move on now?
Yeah.
to-
So we're going to move on
To
to
the field
field inspection fee.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So our field inspector fees, to establish fee schedule rates, setting normal fees based on program costs using a market-based approach so that payments are consistent with efficiency, economy, and I think I've read this before. But we're going to have Mr. Truett Red come up and talk. He's our field inspector in Public Works, and we'll have him come up and talk about the fees.
His first
Or
fee.
are you presenting everything?
No. No. His first fee, he'll be talking about street opening permits.
Good morning. It's on, you just
Okay.
have to talk.
So, we good. Street opening permits. So, as of right now, currently, our street openings is $175 per opening, plus $5.25 per square yard of asphalt and aggregate base restoration. $50 per square yard is required for trench restorations up to 10 square yards. And an additional $10 per square yard is required for restorations over 10 square yards. An application process is completed. I myself, the field inspector, then must physically report to the site and inspect the area. Gas, man hours, and if it's deemed an emergency, an outside contractor must be called in to facilitate the job. The inspector, along with the engineer, work hand in hand to keep track of data until the job is closed out, along with the office administration. Sometimes we have to do a PA1 call. PA1 call is to prevent damage to underground facilities, to promote safety. They provide an efficient and effective communication network among project owners, designers, excavators, and facility owners. That's our current fees right now for street openings. What I propose is that we just change the linear square yards, I'm sorry. So I propose we keep the $175 per opening, and the $50 per square yard is required for restorations up to 10 square yards. However, $15 per square yards is required for restoration over 10 square yards. I'm sorry, I got a little allergy.
That's okay.
So yes, I'm just proposing that we change the square yardage from $10 to $15. And like I said, reason being, I'm out there multiple times. You have to take in consideration, once again, the gas, the manpower, the hours. If the engineer is a part of that scope of work. So the city is incurring a lot of, that's a lot of money. It's superseding the work for paying the employees to go out there and assess and make sure things are done properly and restored properly. As you know, our streets is one of the biggest topics that everybody talk about. all over the city of Chester. And our department, we do the best we can. And cold patch, that's just putting a Band-Aid on the situation. You might be out there the following week, 2 days later, because especially now that the weather is warm, we had a very seasonable winter. So we're constantly out on the road. We're constantly burning gas and manpower. So that's one of the reasons why I proposed that $5 increase on the square yardage for the street openings.
Okay. I think you can, for this, oh, you have a question?
Good afternoon. I just want to know what a street.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Name and address, please.
I'm sorry. My name is Michelle Mosley, 229 East 22nd Street, Chester, PA. And could you just explain to me what street openings are? Is it the potholes that they're fixing? Or in my alley, it's the water is just like staying there. Would this be considered a street opening where the city would come out to investigate to see why that sinkhole is there? And how would it go about being fixed? Thank you.
So I'll try to answer her question. What's your name again? I'm sorry. Miss Cheryl. So Miss Cheryl.
Michelle.
Michelle. Oh, I'm sorry, Michelle. Miss Michelle. A street opening and sinkholes, they kind of work hand in hand. All sinkholes are not deemed an emergency to excavate the ground as far as digging up that ground. Now, granted, you do have a lot of things going on underneath the ground, as well as traffic that's causing these sinkholes or ground openings, which I'll get to later on with as far as the dumpster fees is. But no, all street openings don't need to be opened. Most of the time they can, once again, be repaired with cold patch, or me and the engineer, once I go out and assess the site, I come back, I report to him, tell him, what my investigation was, and then we'll put our heads together. I'll report back to my engineer, and he'll report to who he need to report to, and we'll come out and assess it and make sure we get the job done properly. But no, all street openings don't need to be excavated, and sometimes it could be, like I said, it could be a quick fix, and sometimes you have openings where as though it need to be addressed immediately, and that's why we have to call out or get someone on the outside to address that situation, which is a cost, which is a fee. We just had one, if I'm not mistaken. What was that address, Mark? Right there off of the 5 Points, right there by say it again. 8th and Parker. 8th and Parker, and Concord does run that way. And it was bad enough whereas though we had to address the situation immediately. We didn't want no, especially kids is coming by there. You got buses, school buses. So that had to be addressed immediately. And it was a fee. It was a heavy fee that the city incurred. So those are, like I said, one of the reasons why I would like to see those fees.
I don't know if that was her actual question. I think what she's asking is what exactly is a street opening? Why would someone need to open a street? And is that like a resident doing it, the owner?
Well, you had, not meaning to cut you off, Councilman Green. A street opening is for repair and restoration. That's what a street opening is for, repair and restoration. Those dips that you see, the potholes that she's saying, that doesn't have to be open, doesn't have to be open. Now, granted, it may be something going on underneath the ground, because it may be a situation where as though you have a leak a block down the street. Water it has a way of finding its way throughout years. And our streets are old, very old.
So who's paying that fee?
Yes.
It depends.
Street opening can be a contractor, it can be a private owner, but it all comes from a contractor. They come over and they get the permit for a street opening based on what the problem is. They can be working privately, or it can be one of our vendors. I mean, one of our outside, like Pico, Stormwater, that's the Water Authority, Dorcor, gas contractor, the whole 9 yards. So that can mean anyone, private or
But the
commercial.
homeowner will be responsible for
It
that?
depends
amount?
on what it
The
is.
street, no.
Depends on what's going on.
Okay.
From the curb to the door is homeowner responsibility. Anything beyond the curb, it could be one of those
It can be one of
utility
those entities.
companies.
Yes.
And then normally, there's a call that's put out, and the utility companies come out to assess who it belongs, whose problem it is, who's going to fix it.
Yes. As far as sinkhole, to answer your questions, we put out what we call sinkhole notification, and that goes to all the entities that I just named, and each of them come out and do their small investigation,
Okay.
find out who it belongs to or who's responsible for it.
Okay, we're just going to go, because we're getting ready to run out of time, and I want to make sure that we cover the fees for dumpsters. And you don't have to read the whole thing, just give us the fees for dumpsters
Okay,
for
Councilwoman.
the sake of time.
Okay, so a dumpster fee is currently $50 for 5 days. And so that's basically $10 a day. I propose $75. Reason being, once again, it goes back to, like I said, our streets are being, I don't know how much a dumpster weigh, but I'm sure it's tons. And then whatever the contractor or the resident is filling this dumpster with, that's more added weight that's sitting on our streets. I've been out and seen dumpsters offloaded onto our streets, and to hear the sound that when they hit the street, the way they're damaging the street, how long they're sitting on our streets. Once again, I'm out there 2 and 3 times. Once they, and I have to go back out there to make sure that they didn't supersede their 5 days. Some people get over. That's just how it is. But once again, it's time, it's manpower, it's costly, it's gas.
Right.
Okay?
Sidewalk opening permit.
Sidewalk opening permits. As of right now, they're $50 flat fee for 20 linear feet, plus $3.50 per linear foot after the first 20 yards. So my proposal is to keep the $50 flat fee, keep the 20 linear feet plus change the $3.50 to $5 per linear foot after the first 20 linear yards. And I don't want to echo myself, but you know the reason why I'm saying that.
Right.
Okay.
Are there any questions on the dumpster fees or sidewalk fees? Committee members, you good? Good. Okay, thank you, Mr. Redd.
Thank you.
So we're gonna next have some information on ARPA and non-ARPA projects. Update.
Tajir Lewis, bring that to us.
Thank you so much, Dustin, for doing this for us.
Good afternoon. I'm Tajir Lewis. I'm the project manager for City of Chester for all capital major projects. I brought my entire team with me. I guess there's a question of, one of the questions I get is, what is a project manager, or what is a project? I guess I'll start there. A project is an idea that you're trying to turn into reality that's not recurring. Something like handicaps or dumpsters would not be projects because those are ongoing ideas. But any new idea you're trying to see to completion that has a timeline on is going to be considered a project. So a few of the projects that I've been working on include the IT upgrades, the procurement of all of the equipment, processing all of the documentation, working with the vendors to make sure the pricing is correct. They can deliver the materials, the quantities that we need at the quality we need, as well as identifying any risks that might come up during the procurement of delivery of that equipment. I also been actively supporting the City Hall upgrade initiative, which involves upgrading our technology and our security systems, our design language, and our modern aesthetics, as well as streamlining our personnel internally so that we work together more effectively, time sensitively. I'm also designing the Public Works Garage. We're doing things like site surveys, ground boring, and making sure that the future site is going to be eco-friendly and is going to be economically viable. So there's many other projects that I'm on cohesively, from ARPA to just general funds projects, but those are a quick highlight of what I've been working on since my time here in December.
How many projects have been committed, you know, in terms of, we have to obligate the money? How many of them have been obligated?
I would say there's about 25 to 30 projects. We can successfully say about 10 to 15 have been closed out or nearing completion, which gives us about 6 months for, I would say, about the remaining 10 to 15 projects to either be initiated or closed out.
So 10 to 15 are closed out
Yes, ma'am.
and closed out and near completion?
It closed out or nearing completion means that
Okay,
we have
or
all the
near.
documents in hand and we're pretty much putting a bow on the last phase of the project.
And are you saying that the other projects are going to take 6 months? Is that what you're saying, to complete?
We have to have all of the money obligated by the end of this year, and I do think we are on track. Just to have the contracts created and the timeline set for the actual work. The work has to be completed by the end of next year.
Okay.
Do you have any questions for me, Council, about
And you said the
project?
work has to be completed by,
The end December of 2026, so December 31st, 2026, all of our projects have to be completed, the work has to be done, invoices have to be paid, and the project has to be successfully closed out. The obligated means, like I said before, just the contract has been created and we have a timeline for what needs to be done for what's in the pipeline.
so I know we had a setback with the engineering piece, you know, so are we moving along from that? I mean, with the new engineer?
We are. The engineer, Dave Schwartz, has been great. Great onboarding, has a ton of knowledge that has sort of helped us circumvent the gap left by our previous engineer, just in the time and the manpower that was lost. I do think there's a lot of extra hours that are going to have to be put in, a lot of extra resources that we're going to have to call upon to make sure that we do complete these projects, but I don't see that as a major hindrance to the ARPA funds in any way.
You don't see that as anything that we have to worry about?
No, ma'am. I
Okay.
think we're in good hands.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions about the ARPA projects? Anybody from the community? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. So this was our first Public Works Committee meeting, and I want to thank the directors and personnel from Public Works for your hard work in getting your presentation together for this meeting. This is an overview of what's going on. And I'm sure that you will be getting back with the chief of staff, you know, and then we'll, with some more concrete decisions, you know, well, we'll all make them together as to how we're going to proceed with the fees and what we're going to determine as to what we have to do, whether it's an ordinance piece or a resolution or whatever, we'll work on that together.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Meeting adjourned.